Every journey begins somewhere. For our trustee and founder, Mrs. Sindhu, it is difficult to remember exactly when the desire to serve children first entered her heart. She remembers that once upon a time she wanted to adopt children. Later came another dream, to start an orphanage, a place where children who needed love, care, education, and opportunity could find them. But she did not have the financial resources to build one. So instead of waiting for the perfect opportunity, she decided to begin with what she had. After years of working in different schools, at the age of 36, Mrs. Sindhu started a small educational institute. Her father gave it a name, the Vedic. She taught Vedic mathematics, tuition, and different forms of art. She also visited schools as a part-time Vedic mathematics teacher. But she wanted to reach more children. That desire led her to think of organizing an inter-school competition. There was only one problem. She hardly knew anyone. Through the Malayali Association, she was introduced to Advocate Govindan Sir. She approached him hoping for sponsorship. Instead, he gave her something that proved far more valuable. He told her, "Be bold, go ahead. Whenever you face a difficulty, just use my name." He may never have realized what those words meant to her. For a woman taking uncertain first steps, they became a tremendous source of mental strength. Sometimes support does not come as money. Sometimes it comes as someone simply making you believe that you can go ahead. And then came her first inter-school event, Zalo. There was no event management company, no marketing team, no large office. Sindhu personally traveled from school to school, inviting students to participate. Her son Vinod, then only in class 7, helped his mother with invitations, paperwork, and preparations. Her children became her little support team. A friend, Shagila, offered her the venue free of cost. Judges came forward without expectations. And approximately 350 students from different schools participated. What looked like a one-woman army was already being carried forward by many helping hands. The next chapter was a little play school called Idlik. The first year, there was just one student. The following year, there were 4. There were moments when Sindhu wondered whether she was actually running a school or simply babysitting a few children. But she continued. In the 3rd year, she found an old building. Its condition was so poor that even her own children initially refused to enter it. But Sindhu saw something different. She saw a possibility. There was very little money to spare. She and her father would walk long distances, searching for whatever the school needed, often carrying things back themselves. When she remembers those days, she does not particularly remember her father giving her money. She remembers something far more important. He was there. His advice was always simple. Go ahead. And he taught her something she would carry throughout her life. To remain humble, like water, which always finds its way downward. 2 years later, after moving to a new location, Idlik became Kudos. As the school grew, one belief became stronger in Mrs. Sindhu's mind. Every child can learn. Every child can shine. But the right foundation matters. She wanted children to touch, experience, question, think, and discover, rather than simply memorize. She believed education should awaken curiosity. Children should not simply know an answer. They should understand why it is the answer. That search eventually led to the development of her Thought Process Development Model, TPD. Education was no longer simply her profession. It had become her purpose. Over the years, people sometimes asked Mrs. Sindhu, "Where do you get the motivation to do all this?" For a moment, she would remain silent, because she never really had an answer. There was no one person motivating her every morning. There was no constant voice telling her to continue. She simply learned to motivate herself. She understood that hardship would be part of the journey. There would be disappointments. There would be failures. There would be people who misunderstood. There would be moments when things would not happen the way she had hoped. But her thinking remained simple. Hardship will come. Face it. Walk through it. And keep moving. She never waited for life to become easier before taking the next step. When a problem came, she faced it. When one way did not work, she searched for another. When she fell, she learned to stand again. Perhaps that was her real motivation. Not the absence of hardship, but the belief that whatever came her way, she would find the strength to walk through it. And she continued. As her work slowly grew, whatever Sindhu could spare began finding its way towards people who needed support. One such journey took her to Good Life. The children there were living under very difficult circumstances. She listened to their stories, and one question would not leave her. Why shouldn't these children get what other children get? She began reaching out to others for help. Warm bedding was arranged for winter. Towels were provided for hygiene. The old building was repainted. Teachers were arranged. The children were introduced to learning, dance, karate, and music. And whenever Sindhu arranged a special meal, the children chose the menu. Because helping someone did not have to mean deciding everything for them. Sometimes, dignity begins with something as simple as asking, "What would you like?" On one occasion, she took some of the children shopping. She wanted them to choose whatever they liked. But something unexpected happened. They would not choose only for themselves. Again and again they asked, "Can we take something for our friends too?" Sindhu had gone there believing she was giving them something. That day, they gave her something instead. A lesson in thinking beyond oneself. Sindhu had noticed something else. Many people visited children's homes to celebrate their own birthdays. They brought food. They brought cakes. They shared their happiness. But one question came to her mind. When does somebody celebrate these children's birthdays? So she decided to organize a birthday celebration especially for them. There was a beautiful multi-tiered cake. There were decorations. And there was a celebration where, for once, they were the birthday children. The children gave Sindhu a name that she remembers even today. Cake Auntie. Perhaps it remains one of the sweetest awards she has ever received. As Kudos grew, Mrs. Sindhu began meeting women in whom she saw potential. One of them was Rekha. Rekha first entered her life as a parent. During their conversations, Sindhu saw something in her and simply said, "You can do what I am doing." Rekha went home and discussed the idea with her family. Her advocate cousin asked, "Where is the franchise agreement and what is the franchise fee?" There was just one small problem. At that point, Sindhu herself did not really know what a franchise meant. So she looked it up. She learned. She created a simple 2-page document. She decided on a fee. And she began. That modest beginning eventually grew to as many as 14 franchises, largely without advertising. Today, 5 women-run franchises in Chennai continue the journey, with long-standing franchise partners carrying the vision forward. Women such as Rekha, Jayashri, Uma and Kavita did not simply walk beside Sindhu. They took the path forward in their own way and began touching the lives of many more children. Because perhaps impact is not measured only by how many people we reach. It is also measured by how many people we inspire to reach others. Another initiative especially close to Mrs. Sindhu's heart was Project Azizo. Over the years, She had met families who valued education deeply but struggled financially to provide the opportunities they wanted for their children. Sindhu believed that a family's income should not decide the quality of education a child deserves. Project Azaizo was created with that thought. Through this initiative, families from lower income groups were given access to education at fees they could manage comfortably and with dignity. Many children have benefited through this project at Kudos Play School and KIMS. For Sindhu, Azizo represents a belief she has carried from the beginning. Education should create opportunity, not become a barrier to it. She remains grateful to Sarat Babu Yerumale and Advocate Govindan, sir, for inaugurating Project Azizo and encouraging yet another meaningful chapter in the journey. At different stages of Sindhu's journey, people appeared and opened doors she could not have opened alone. One such person was Pungurli. She first entered Sindhu's life as a parent. Over time, she became a motivating friend who genuinely believed in her. Pungurali introduced Sindhu to colleges and created opportunities for guest lectures. The woman who had once personally walked into schools requesting them to participate in her little event was now standing before audiences, sharing what years of experience had taught her. Sometimes one person's belief in another is enough to open an entirely new door. Something beautiful continued to happen throughout the journey. People came into the organization for one reason and stayed for another. David Sir joined as a drums master after the first event and continued the journey, helping in every way he could. Sai and Kamesh came as teachers. Somewhere along the journey, they stopped feeling like employees. They became extended family, like her own children. Her friend Shagila stood beside her like a pillar. Her friend Udaya worried that Sindhu would become ill because she often forgot to eat while working. She would bring food to wherever Sindhu happened to be. Her elder brother Bopan quietly stepped in whenever help was required. Her second brother Bupan motivated and encouraged her. Her brothers offered guidance whenever she needed it. Different people, different moments, different forms of love, but each became part of the journey. Behind everything stood a family. Her father gave her first institute its name. When there was almost nothing, he walked beside her. His message remained simple: go ahead. Her husband, Shri Kumar, remained a silent supporter. He never stood in the way of the journey she wanted to take. And whenever she felt low, there was a hand waiting to lift her again. Her children did not simply grow up watching their mother work. They grew up inside the journey. When there were only 4 students and Sindhu was the only teacher, little Varun would come during his holidays to help. One day he might arrive as Spider-Man. Another day, Batman. Years later, during his class 10 holidays, Varun went out, met people, raised funds and sponsored a child's education. His mother watched quietly and felt proud. Perhaps a little seed planted years earlier had begun to bloom. And Vinod, who had once helped his mother with invitations and paperwork as a class 7 boy, had already shown that this journey had never truly been hers alone. When Sindhu began KIMS, another small moment touched her deeply. Her mother-in-law gave her 1 lakh rupees. After nearly 30 years of married life, it was the first gift of its kind from her. To Sindhu, it was not simply financial support. It represented something she had quietly longed for: recognition. Sometimes people do not say, I believe in you. Sometimes they show it. And yet, when Sindhu looks back today, something is missing. There are not enough photographs. There are not perfect records. There are no numbers attached to every act of service. For years, she believed that if she helped a child, a woman, or a family, their difficulty should never become her advertisement. If she gave something, she did not need a photograph proving that she had given it. If someone needed help, she believed it should happen quietly. And so she served and moved on. Today, in a world of posts, stories, and reels, she understands something she did not fully understand then. There is a difference between displaying someone's difficulty and documenting a journey that may inspire another person to serve. Behind much of Mrs. Sindhu's strength was another strong woman, her mother, Srimati Sharda. Amma was not someone who stood on a stage and spoke about empowering others. She lived it. She taught her daughter to be bold. She taught her to face situations rather than run away from them. Like every mother, she worried. When Sindhu stepped into something uncertain, Amma worried about her safety. When the journey became difficult, she wondered how her daughter would manage. But her worry never became a reason to stop her. She allowed her daughter to find her own way. Perhaps Sindhu's ability to face hardship without waiting for someone else to motivate her began much earlier than she realized. It began at home. It began by watching a strong woman. It began with Amma. As the years passed, Sindhu herself became a mother, an educator, a mentor, and someone who encouraged other women to stand on their own feet. And only later did she begin to recognize how much of the strength she was trying to give others had first been given to her by her mother. When the Vedic Educational and Charitable Trust decided to create an award to recognize educators, there was one name that felt deeply personal: the Srimati Sharda Memorial Awards. The award carries Amma's name not simply because she was Sindhu's mother. It carries her name because of what she represented: strength without noise, courage without display, love without expectation, and the ability to allow another person to grow. There was another reason the name felt especially appropriate. Teachers, in many ways, carry something of a mother's heart. They worry about children who are not their own. They correct them. They encourage them. They celebrate their smallest achievements. They sometimes see potential in a child before the child can see it. And long after a child has forgotten a lesson from a textbook, that child may still remember the teacher who believed in them. That is why an award created to honor educators carries the name of the woman who first taught Sindhu what strength meant: Srimati Sharda. Today, every educator who walks onto this stage to receive an award in her name becomes part of that legacy. A mother's strength, honoring a teacher's service, and inspiring another generation. Perhaps there could be no more meaningful tribute to Amma than that. What began years ago as a desire to help traveled through many chapters: the Vedic, Idyllic, Kudos, Kim's, Project Azizo, through children, through teachers, through women, through friends, through families, through countless acts of service that were never photographed or recorded. And eventually, all these experiences found a larger identity in the Vedic Educational and Charitable Trust. But perhaps the trust was not really born on the day its documents were registered. Perhaps it had been growing quietly for years, in every life touched along the way. Today, her heart remembers, somewhere behind all of it, is Amma. Maybe when we are young, we do not always realize what our parents are giving us. Only much later do we understand that their courage, their values, their words, and sometimes even their silence, have become part of who we are. Today, when Sindhu sees an educator receiving the Srimati Sharda Memorial Award, she does not see only an award carrying her mother's name. She sees her values continuing. And somewhere inside her, she feels she is telling her, Amma, what you gave me did not stop with me. It traveled. It traveled into her children, into her schools, into her teachers, into the women who walked with her, into the children whose lives they were fortunate enough to touch. And today, it travels through every teacher honored in her name. Thank you, Amma. And thank you to every person who became part of this journey. There are still children to educate. There are still teachers to encourage. There are still women to empower. There are still lives waiting for an opportunity. Mrs. Sindhu once thought we had to do something very big to make a difference. Today, she understands that perhaps we do not have to change the whole world. If we can change the world of even one person, that itself is a beginning. So, with gratitude for yesterday, with responsibility for today, and with hope for tomorrow, the journey continues.